Okay, we'll start. So where were we? We were looking into this serialization, right? Serialization we are doing. So serialization, I mean, we have studied. We just started it since, right? I had given the introduction of serialization. So what is serialization? What is serialization? Yeah. So there were two ways. I mean, so one way to convert object into byte of strings, and what is the other way? Conversion of byte of strings to your object, reverse of it. Okay. So what is this serialization? Serialization is nothing but conversion of object into stream of bytes. Okay. And what is the another way? Deserialization is nothing but stream of bytes to objects. Okay, this is called deserialization. Now we have already studied in the last class. Okay, so whenever we have got client server architecture, there are two things which will come into picture. One is called request, another is called response. Okay, so request, we will send request and response will be there. Request will contain two things. What is the first one? Data. What is the another one? Method. And typically how we have the data, we use XML or JSON. Okay, and what all methods we are having? Get, okay, put, okay, post, delete, okay, so many are there, but these are the four which are famous. Other things are also there, but get and post are the most famous one. Now whenever we pass the data, okay, so what will happen? What response will contain? Response will contain two things. One is data, another is called result code. And what is the result code? So data, okay, and what is another one? Result code. Okay, now result code will have, I mean, there are different ways to do that. Okay, so tell me what all result code are very famous. Tell me. 200, what does that mean? Success. Okay, now if I'm having 4xx, then what does that mean? Client side problem. I mean the request which you are calling is not correct basically. Okay, so client side problem. Okay, so typically, I mean 404, which is very famous, right? What is 404? Page not found basically. Okay, and if my error code starts with 5xx, what does that mean? Server side problem. Okay, so any 500 or all those things, so something like internal server error will get, right? Something like if you have deployed some code somewhere, okay, and then your server is having problem, then what is the code you'll get? It will start with 5. Okay, so the other thing we said, then we have seen what is the difference between get and post. So tell me what is the difference between get and post. This is very important question. Okay, I mean you must know all the difference. I mean at least 5-6 differences. Okay, so what is the first difference? URL. I mean whatever request you hit now, it will be part of your URL. Post will not be part of the URL. Okay, where the data will be, it will be inside your message body. Okay, so yeah, now what is the second difference? Post caching, you are talking about what? Post data will be inside, okay, and you get, it will be part of your URL. Okay, and the third difference is, I mean get can be cached. You can cache your get, post cannot be cached. Okay, then what is the bookmark? Get can be bookmark, post cannot be bookmark. Yeah, then size constant. Okay, so get is having size constant. Post no size constant. Okay, you can pass any number of data, any sort of data. Okay, yeah, then what yeah, post is secured. Okay, why? Because it is not part of your URL, right? So the data which you are passing, people will not be able to see it. So what is that? Post is more secure than your get. Okay, so these are the, I mean some of those examples. If you want to pass some sensitive data, suppose your username, password, okay, then credit card number, some CVV number will be there. So all the data you want to share, then how will you do share? it must always be post. You should never use get. Okay, otherwise each and every people will be able to see your data, right? So it is not the best way to do that. Okay, so these are the things which you should know. I mean, very very important question. Okay, now let's try to go to understand this. Yeah, then one more thing we have seen, one what that, I forgot here, some interface we have seen, right? Tag interface or marker interface. What is tagged or marker interface? The interface which does not have anything is called marker interface. Okay, then what is the use of it? If it does not have anything, it is just a signal to JVM so that he will create some environment for you basically. Okay, so what are the other examples of marker interface? A remote one. Okay, then one clonable. So clonable was the one. Okay, serializable, which you are going to do now. This is also example of this one. Serializable. Okay, so these are the example of marker interface. So if you go inside this, you will not find anything. It is blank. But what is the use of it? So that you will tell JVM that do something for me. I mean, because serialization which we are going to do, it is not a normal event. It is a very special event. Okay, for that JVM will have to allocate some resource to you basically. Okay, so now if will not do this, then we will check it. I mean, there is some problem which we'll get into if will not do this. Okay, yeah. Now let me open our PPT. Okay. So just try to understand the diagram which you have already seen. Once again you will see. Okay, so if I am converting object into HTML byte, this is called serialization, and store it somewhere, and deserialization is reverse of it. Okay, yeah. Now if you want to do this serialization and deserialization, okay, just try to understand it. I mean we use some of those classes. Okay, so what is the first class which we use? File output stream. And serialization, the code which we will write is very important. Most of the places whenever you go for the interview, they will tell you to write some code. You have to write the same code what we are going to study now. Okay, so serialization. What is the first class we will use? File output string. Okay, what is the second class we will use? Object output string. Okay, and what is the third class we use? We use write. These are the three things which we use basically during serialization. This is a method. Okay, yeah. Now if I do deserialization, file input string, just change output. Here it will become input. Everything will remain same. Okay, similar to this, here your object output string, here what will be there? It will become object input string. Output will become input, the reverse. And instead of write object, what will be there? It will be your read object. What is the method name? Read object. Okay, this is the method. Very simple. File output, object output, write object, deserialization, input, read. Just you have to remember this. If you understood this, you are done with the serialization. Okay. So let's do a very simple example. Okay. So which will help us out to understand how to do the serialization. Okay. So what we want to do is, suppose let's try to have one of the class. So I will create one of the class called student. What is the class name? Student. And all the class will have two things. What are those called? States and behavior. What are the states of student? Tell me, any states of student? What is the name of that student, right? So what we'll do, we'll make it private. Okay, for timing I'm not making private. I'm not going for encapsulation. I'm doing the normal coding basically. Okay, so name. What is the name of that student? Okay. Now what is the other thing you can have? What is the age of that student? Okay. Any other state student will have. What is the roll number? Roll number of that student. Okay. What is the address of the student? So student has got 4 data. What are those? Name, age, then roll number and address. Those are the 4 data. Now what I want to do, I want to serialize my student. That means I want to convert this object into byte of strings. Okay, then how we'll do? We'll try to understand basically. Okay, so whenever we do serialization, we follow some steps. Okay, so what are those steps? What are those steps? First step is, okay, we have to make it implements serializable. Okay, so what is the first step? What to do? Implement serializable. This is the first step. Okay, so if I want to do this, I'll go to the class. Suppose my class name is student. First step, what I do, I'll go here and I'll write something like implements serializable. If I'll not do this, then what problem we'll find? We'll check it. Okay. Okay, what is the second one? What is the second one you have to do? You have to create object. Okay, so because you can store object, right? So how to create object? Student equal to new student. You have to pass this. This is the second way, second place where we have to do. Okay. Now there would be some scenario where you don't want to store the state of your variable. Okay, something like if I store a student, what will happen? All the variable will be stored, right? Name, age, roll number and address. Suppose age is very sensitive, I don't want to store it. Okay, then we use one of those non-access modifier. What is the non-access modifier called? Transient. What is the non-access modifier? Transient. So what is the use of transient? Transient means you don't want to store it. You want to store name, roll number, address, but you don't want to store the age of the student. Then what you do? What is the modifier you use? Transient. Okay, so what is the use of transient? Let's try to understand what is the use of transient. In case if we don't want to store the state of a variable, I mean you don't want to store this is, you want to store other things, then what will happen? Okay, so this variable will get the default value. Okay, now what is the default value of int? 0, right? We have already seen, right? So what is the default value of integer? 0. What is default value of float? 0.0. Okay, what is the default value of string? What is default value of string? Null. Now tell me, if I'll make this as a transient, what will be the value of name? It will always be null. You cannot store name now. So if I'll make a transient, so very simple, if I make a transient, my data will never be stored in during your serialization part. Other data will be stored. Okay. Yeah. Now third step is what it will do. I want to do this serialization. Then what is the file output string? Okay, I'll give some name called fys equal to new file output string, and here you have to pass the path where you want to store the byte of strings. If I want to store in some, let's create one folder here called maybe okay, this is a folder. I want to store my state of this object here in this particular folder. So what I have to do, I have to pass this folder name here. I have to pass this folder name here. And I have to give the file name also. Suppose my file name is test.scr. I am giving the file name. And Windows always takes this is a forward slash, so you have to make it a forward slash. Yes. Okay, now file output over. Now where will go? You will go to object output string. Okay, so what to do? Object output string OIS equal to new. How to create an object output string? Okay, and what you pass? You have to pass this file output string here. Be very careful about the code which I am writing. This is very important. So 3-4 lines which I am writing now, but this is very important. People will ask definitely. Okay, so what happened? File output stream over, object output stream over. Now what we want to do? We want to write it, right? So how to write it? OIS dot write object. What you want to write? You want to write this student, the one you write. That's all. This is called serialization. Okay. Now if you want to change some data of student, then what will student dot name equal to any name. Suppose I want to give my name Tapas. Okay, then student dot is equal to 90. Okay, I am 90 years old. Okay, and then student dot okay, something like, what is that? Address equal to some sort of some address only. This is called serialization. As soon as you will write object, what will happen? This student will be stored in my local machine. What is the path where it will be stored? This is the path. And what would be the file name of that byte of string? Test. Okay, let's do this serialization first, then we'll go for the deserialization later on. Okay, so let's quickly create one project. I'll close it. All this project you can find it in our shared drive. Okay, so okay, you can go here, go drive. If you want to see the projects, Where you go, tell me. Examples is one of the folder. I will show you. Examples is one of the folder. Okay, and just go to this Java example. All the examples are there. If you want to see Android example, all the Android examples are here, which we are studying. Yeah. It is not shared with you. Okay, we'll check it. Okay, then Java examples will be here. Whatever things you are doing now, here Java examples are there. Remind me, I'll share. Okay, so I want to create this project, so I'll give the name called serialization. Serialization example. It is best practice to have package, so we'll create this package. How to create? What is shortcut to create a package? Alt Shift N. We will go to the package com.test. I want to have the entry point. So how to create the entry point? I must have one class main class. Okay. Just click on this. Finish. This is your main class. Okay. And what you want to do? You want to create a student class. So how will you create? Alt Shift N. Go to class, and as we want to create student, so I will create one of the student class, and each class will have its state and behavior. Okay, so let's try to have some state. So suppose my name of that student will be one of the state. Okay, same thing, I mean the one which you have written here, right? So I'm trying to do the same thing over there. No? Name, age, roll number, address. So name and age. Okay, then roll number, then address. It is best practice, it should be private, and you must have getters and setters. Okay, but for time being, to make it fast, we are not making those, you know? But you can do that, it's up to you basically. Okay, so this is the class we have created. Okay, now whenever you want to serialize, what is the first step you should do? You should implement serializable. So what I do, I'll go here and I'll write implements serializable. Okay, for time being I am not doing this. We'll see, I mean what is the error we'll get. If I'll not implement serializable, what is the problem we'll get? First see the problem, then we'll fix it later upon of time. Okay, so for time being, hold on, I am not doing that. Okay, yeah, then we will go here in main class. I want to do the serialization, so what is the first class we'll use? File output stream. Okay, so file output stream equal to new file output stream, and what I have to pass? I have to pass the path of the file. Okay, so how to get the path of your file? You go over there, you just copy, because this is the place where I want to store my serialized file. Okay, so I'll copy this path and put here. Okay, now always Windows supports this /, so I have to remove this back into forward. Okay, and I have to give the name of that file also. So suppose I want to give the name of the file called student.ser. Okay, even though there is some problem. Any idea what is the problem? What is the problem? Okay, so when I'll move my cursor, it will automatically tell me what is the problem. Okay, what is the problem you will find. So what is the problem? Can you see here? Unhandled exception type file not found. So can anybody tell me, is it a compile time or runtime? Compile time. Because in earlier case, when we got the exception called null pointer exception, array index out of bound, or maybe what are these exceptions? Number format exceptions. So those exceptions, when we are running the code, then we are finding. But in this case, what is happening? We are finding before running only. Are you able to understand? So this is one of the example of your compile. So what is the example of compile time exception? File not found. Okay. So let's try to go over there. There are many exceptions which we have seen. So compile time exception. Okay. Now this is one of the example of exception. file not found exception. Okay, runtime, which you have already seen, runtime exception. What are the examples of those? What is the example? Arithmetic exception. Okay, arithmetic exception. Then tell me null pointer exception. Then number format exception. Okay, illegal argument exception. Okay, so these are the different exceptions are there. So if you want to handle it, what is the way? There are two ways. You can use throws, or you can handle with try catch. Okay, so if you don't want to handle, what you do? Throws, then what will happen? Your calling method will handle. It will keep on going. If nobody will handle, it will go to JVM. But if you want to handle, you know this, what is the problem, right? What is the problem will come if my file is not there, then it will give me this exception, right? So you know this, it's better to handle it. How to handle? Go over there, just write try catch, it will be handled like this. Now there is no problem. Okay, so file not found is one of the example of compile time exception. Okay, and what is this e.print stack trash? So that you will be able to see where the problem is, what is the line number is causing problem. But again, we have discussed, if you are working for some sort of production environment, it is best practice you should comment this. You should not expose basically the code. Okay, yeah. Now we have done with your file output stream. Okay, now what is the second one? What is the second one? Tell me. Object output stream. Okay, so let's start with this object output stream. Object output stream equal to new object output stream. What you have to pass? You have to pass this file and output stream. Again, there is some problem. Okay, what is the problem? We'll move our cursor. It will tell me what is the one. Unhandled exception. So tell me, IO exception is the example of compile time or runtime? Compile time. Okay, so this is also example of compile time. So we have studied two exceptions which are compile time, IO exception and file not found. Okay, some other exceptions are SQL exception. Okay, when it will come, if there is some problem in your query, SQL query, then also this is also one of the example of compile time exception. Okay, so now if you want to go ahead, what you do? You have to just handle it. Okay, so we have handled this your compile time exception. Got it, right? Now what is the third step is left? Write one. Okay, so before writing you have to create the object first, then only you can be able to write, right? So let's create one object here. So how will you create the object? Student equal to, how to create object? New student, and you want to have the name something like student dot name equal to, we'll give some name called tapas. Okay, student dot is, okay, so it is in something like any number I'll give. Okay, student dot, what is the one? Roll number. Okay, so roll number 1. Okay, then student dot address. Okay, it is a string, right? So we have to give some string called maybe any number. So what I have done is I have created one student which I want to store. So how will you store? I have to do write object. So I will go over there and create one write object. So object dot, what is the method name? Write object. Are you able to see somewhere write object? Write object. Okay, what object you want to store? Student object. Okay, so we'll just choose the student. So this is nothing but serialization. Serialization is over. Okay, now as soon as I run this code, what will happen? It will store. No, it will not store. Okay, so let's try to see what is the problem. Okay, so let's try to run this code. What is happening? We are getting some problem. What is the problem? not serializable exception. Why this not serializable exception is coming? Because we did not implement serializable. Okay, so now what is the question? If we forget to implement serializable, what happens? We get one runtime exception. It is not a compile time. Okay, it is a runtime exception. What is the name of that exception? Not serializable exception. Okay, now if you want to fix this issue, what you have to do? You have to go and implement serializable. Okay, so we'll go to our class. Where is our class? Student. And what to do? Just implements, then serializable. That's all. Very small. Okay, now what will happen? It will automatically generate that file. So we will go to our so do we have any file here? This is older one. We will just close it. Okay, do you have any file? We don't have any file. Now let's run this code. Where is our code? What is shortcut to run? Control F11. As soon as you will do Control F11, okay, so now what are you able to see this file? Student. So this is called serialization. Means what you have done? You have done the first part of it. So what is the first part? First part is nothing but you have created object and you stored in your schema files, and in file or somewhere you are storing. So we are storing in our file system here. Okay. Now what is left now? Deserialization. Okay. So better what we can do? We can extract a method. Okay. So how to extract a method? Because if I do deserialization here, what will happen? My method will become very big. So it's best practice you should have small methods. Okay, so that people will be able to understand. Otherwise, if it is very big, people they by the time method will finish, they can sleep. Okay, so okay, so it's best practice we should have a refactored method. Okay, so how to extract a method from your big method? So you just select all the things, whatever you want to refactor. Okay, you want to Alt Shift M. What is shortcut? Alt Shift M. What is the use of it? Extract a method out of big method. Okay, so we can put it here also. Where is this? This is the 30th shortcut. Okay, so what is the shortcut? Extract method out of big methods. So what is shortcut? Alt Shift, okay, M. Alt Shift M. Okay, so see here it will ask for the method of serialize object. I will give the name called serialize. Automatically it will become small. See, now it will become small. So whenever you want to extract a method from a big method, what you do? Just do Alt Shift M. Automatically it will create a small method. Okay. Now quickly do this deserialization. So how to do deserialization? You have to do the reverse way. So what is the reverse way? Object. Tell me input string here. Object input, because you already did this first file. So sorry, what we are doing here, if you remember, where it was? Yes, file object write. Now what do we do? File object read. Okay, so let's try to do this. So first we create object of it, I mean where you want to put that variable. Okay, suppose I'll do student equal to new student. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to deserialize. So what is the first one? File input string. File input string equal to new file input string. What to pass? I have to pass the file path. Okay, so what is the path name? I can copy from here only, in the place where I am creating this byte of strings. Again it will ask for some of the exception. What is the one? File not found. It is an example of your compile time exception. Now file input is done. Now what are object input? So object input stream equal to new object input stream. What to pass? You have to pass file input stream. Again it will ask for the compile time exception. For the example of it, IO exception. Example of your compile time exception. IO or input output. Okay. And what is the last one? Read object. Here I am doing write, distillation will do read. Okay, so how to do read object? Student equal to input stream dot, what is the method name? Read object. Okay, read object. And try to understand this. Read object returns object class, which is a supermost class. Now if you want to make your superclass into subclass, how to do? We do casting. What is that called? Casting. Okay, so if you remember, I mean, which you have already studied here. Okay, so suppose I am having one of the class called animal. Who is the supermost class? Object. Okay, now I am having one of the class called dog. Okay, now if I'll tell you all dogs are animal, is it correct? Correct. But if I'll tell you all animals are dog, is it correct? No. Now if you want to make animal to dog, what you do? You do casting basically. Okay, so typically how do you do? I mean something like if my object is dog. Okay, if you want to have, if you are having some animal, yeah, then what you do? It will not work like this. You must have to do the casting something like this. Okay, so how to do the casting? We use this smaller bracket. Okay, and we pass the class name, I mean where you want to cast. Now the other way, if tell me, is it correct? Animal equal to dog, is it correct? Yeah, it's correct, no problem. Why? Because all dogs are animal, right? So you can assign dog into animal, no problem. Okay, so whenever you are assigning superclass into subclass, what we do? We do this casting mechanism. So similarly here also, this read object will give you the supermost class, which is the one object. Now you want to convert it into your student. So how to do? You just have to cast it. So move your cursor, it will do the casting. What is the problem? Okay, now tell me, this class not found, it is an example of compile time or runtime? Compile time, no? Because I am not able to compile. So again we found out, I mean, 4 exceptions today, which are example of your compile time exception. So these are the examples of compile time. Now if I want to fix, what to do? Just move your cursor to the strike over. So we are done with the deserialization. Now let's try to get the data back from our serialized data. So how will you get the data? Suppose I will do system.out.println. So what is my name? Student dot name will give me the name. Okay, now what are the other data which we have stored? We will try to retrieve all the data. So suppose I want to get my age, okay, and then address, okay, okay. So to understand, we will just change the name. Okay, so that this is your address, this is your When I run this code, what will happen? Whatever data we have stored, all will come. So let's try to run this code. What is coming? My name is Tapas 87. This is the way how we do. Okay. So these are not coming from earlier code. It is coming from your serialized byte of stream. Again, we are converting byte of stream into object and we are showing it in over there. Okay. Now again, this method become very big, right? So I want to extract it. So how will you do? Go over there, select it, Alt Shift M. Okay, just make it deserialize. Deserialize. Not happen. See, this method is small now. Okay, so what is the shortcut? Alt Shift M. Okay, it is very handy. Why? Because otherwise this method will become very big, which is not good actually. Okay, now let's go to transient, which we have discussed. So what does transient means? Transient means I don't want to serialize something. Then what is the modifier we use? Transient. So suppose I will go over there. I don't want to show my age to other people. Then what to do? Very simple. I will make it transient. So if I will make a transient, what is the value of age will come? It will come 0. Okay, let's run it. What is the value we are getting? 0. So I would say here 0 is coming. But actual value is 87, which we have passed. Okay. Yeah. Similar to this, if I don't want to show my name, what I do? I'll just make this value as transient. Then what should come with name? Null. Got it, right? So there will be some sensitive data. I mean, you don't want to store, as I told, password, okay, username, credit card. Then what you should do? You should just make a transient. Then those data will not be stored, basically. Okay. So similarly, suppose if I am having some sort of, float, okay, WIGST. So what is the one? Weight. Okay, I want to calculate my weight. So I will go over there. Okay, so I will do this student dot weight. Okay, suppose my weight is 76.5. It is a what is that? Float, right? So F. Let me make it F. Okay, so 76.5 is my weight. Now if I want to get how will I get it? Tell me. During deserialization. So here only what to do? We just have to copy it. Okay, now how much weight should come now if I run this code? It should be 76.5. Okay, so let's start running. 76.5 is coming. Okay, now suppose I don't want to show my weight. Then what I do? Just make it transient. Then what should the value come in? Tell me. 0.0. Why? Because float will always have 0.0 as your default value. Okay, well, let's run it. What is the 0.0? Okay, integer 0, string null, and float double, all those will be 0.0. Okay, so this is about your deserialization. So the code which you have written here, these two codes, these are very important. Okay, so please practice it at your home. Okay, so anyway, this is already, I will share that drive also. So before that, just have a finishing touch of this chapter. Okay, so what is a transient variable? Transient variable means if you mark it instance variable as transient, you are telling JVM to skip this for the serialization part. You don't want to serialize it, then what you do? You just make it transient. Okay. How to store the state of an object? There are two ways. Serialization, which we are doing in Java. In Android, we will study one of those concepts called parcellable. It is exactly same as serialization value. Okay. And what is serialization? Serialization is nothing but conversion of your object into byte of stream and store it somewhere. Okay. And what is deserialization? Just opposite of it, getting the object from your byte of streams. Okay, this is called deserialization. What is markup interface? It is a special interface without any field or method. Okay, but what is the use of it? Use of it to signal JVM that please create environment for me, basically. What are the example of it? serializable, clonable, remote, random access. These are the very good examples of your markup interface. This question is also very important. What is markup interface? People ask. So what is markup or else tag interface? Both are having same. Okay. Now, whenever we serialize our data, what is the method we use? Write object. During deserialization, what is the read object. Okay. And this we have already seen it. And this is the example. I mean, here employee is the name, class name. We have used student. Okay. So if you want to serialize, what to do? Student implements serializable. We will get all the variables which you want to serialize. Okay. Now, when you do deserialization, how to do? What is the method? File output, then you pass the path, then object output, you will pass the file output, then what to do? Write object. Okay. Deserialization, what to do? File input, you pass the path, object input, pass the path. What is the method used? Read object. Then you will be able to get all the data here basically. Okay. So yeah, I mean next class we'll look into these are the questions which you can prepare from this chapter. Okay, very small chapter, but in terms of interview, that code which you have written now, that is very important. Now people will definitely ask you to write how to write file output, file input, all those things. Okay, so practice it. If you have any doubt, just let me know tomorrow. We'll visit once again. Okay, so